is your assessment? Will the Senate prevail? It wants the MAIFIP funds to be removed. Also, what Senator Lacson termed as farm to pocket roads.
Yes, well, I think says that the incentives are really strong here in the sense that very clearly with the presence of DPWH Secretary Vince Dizon yesterday in the BICAM meeting, which is highly anomalous and irregular, it's quite clear, at least to me and other budget analysts, that the funding for many of the legislators' respective districts have been hurt by the cuts made by the Senate. And this is their last-ditch attempt to bring back those funds that will benefit their own districts. And possibly, of course, some of that might go to corruption as well. So it's really an interesting thing to witness. But on the other hand, I think the risks of a reenacted budget are becoming larger now as we approach the end of the year. But I also kind of argue that that in itself is not bad news in the sense that, remember, the last reenacted budget we had was in 2019, and we largely survived it. Remember that the Duterte administration signed the budget law around April of that year, April 2019. So a few months after going into 2019, and we kind of survived it, actually. So I think there's also a need to challenge or revisit the assumption that a reenacted budget is automatically bad or catastrophic.
Why do you say that when, of course, the funding there for DPWH and all these things will be intact? Those that we are protesting, right?
Yes, exactly. So that's the thing, because it seems to me that there's a trade-off now between infrastructure-led growth that's ridden by corruption, but on the other hand, what we want would be clean growth in the sense that corruption is minimized. However, we're seeing delays in the implementation of many projects. As we already know, the growth rate in the third quarter of 2025 is only 4%, which is the lowest since 2011 if you don't count the pandemic. So here's me thinking that is it not possible to actually have high growth at the same time minimal corruption? There seems to be a big trade-off that's happening when it comes to corruption on the one hand and then infrastructure development on the other hand.
JC, I wanted to get your thoughts about that deadlock on the DPWH budget because, as you said, Secretary Vince Dizon showed up. He asked for 45 million back. He said, I'm not sure if you're buying this. That's what I wanted to get. Parang may sense naman yung explanation niya, right? We need to put it back because across the board yung cut and the prices of materials are different, etc., etc. Baka hindi ma-implement. What are your thoughts when that happened in the BICAM yesterday?
Well, his mere presence in the BICAM is highly irregular in itself. Of course, we opened BICAM first in history, but also the presence of a member of the executive, when in fact, I was thinking yesterday while watching the proceedings, is it not possible at all for the lawmakers to finalize the budget by themselves? There's so many people there already, and now is really not the time to discuss these minutiae or these details. When in fact, as pointed out by some lawmakers, the DPWH and other agencies already had so much opportunity to defend their respective budgets. And they have their sponsors, by the way, as well, among the House representatives. So this is not the venue to talk about this. It's too late already to talk about these details. And it's very clear to me that the only reason that Secretary Dizon is in the BICAM is that many lawmakers, especially in the House of Representatives, are threatened by the cuts made by the Senate.
So nag-aabogado siya para sa mga kongresista. Tama ba? Can we term it that way?
That's my reading as well, because I think you saw the PCIG report that for the 2026 budget, as much as 2/3 of the DPWH budget can be considered pork projects. So in other words, much of the pork is still in the DPWH, and the House lawmakers are trying to cling as much as possible and defend those pork budgets. And this is their last-ditch effort to do that because they will lose money if the Senate revisions prevail.